Hello friends, we discussed last time handling lists in R, and today we are going to discuss handling matrices in R.
First of all, if I want to define a matrix, how do we do it? Let me say a matrix matr. So I'll define it by the function matrix. Then I'll insert its values. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So I want to divide these 6 values in 3 rows and 2 columns. So I'll say n row. So n row will define the number of rows that I want in my matrix. So I want 3 rows and 2 columns in my matrix. So there is one more parameter when I define a matrix, and it is known as by row. What this parameter is used for? If I say by row equals to false, then all the values will be arranged column wise, and if I say by row equals to true, all the values will be arranged row wise. So let me demonstrate both the situations. So I say by row equals to false. Control enter. I want to print matrix. So it says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you can see when I said by row equals to false, all the values have been arranged column wise. So 1, 2, 3 in the first column, 4, 5, 6 in the second. Now if I say by row equals to true, then you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 have been arranged row wise. So this is one of the important points when we want to define a matrix and we want to insert some values in it. We can do matrix indexing also. Indexing in R is always done through square braces. This is the point that we need to keep in mind. For example, if I want to retrieve the second column of matrix matr, so what I'll do is matr square braces. Now if I don't want to subset by row, I'll put the first part before a comma empty, and I'll mention the name of the column or the number of the column that I want. If I say 1 and press Ctrl enter, you can see it is displayed 1, 3 and 5. 1, 3 and 5. If I want the second column, displaying 2, 4, 6. If I want the first row, it will be displaying 1, 2. What a case if I want to display a particular cell value. Let's say first row and first column, then 1, 1. So this is the way you retrieve the different values of a matrix. Now if you want to append some other values in a matrix, you can also do it. Let me display what the original matrix is. So the dimensions of my matrix is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 arranged by rows with 2 columns and 3 rows. Let's say I want to append one more column to it. So how I'll do that? I'll say I'll give the same name, I'll overwrite it. You have a function cbind. Cbind stands for column binding, comma. So first parameter, to what you want to bind. So we want to bind it with to matr, and what you want to bind, that is a different vector, say 3, 5 and 7, and press Ctrl enter. We received an error here. So was there error? Let us check it out. So error was while binding. So you know, if you want to find some help, you say question mark and cbind. Press enter, and on the bottom right you will be able to see what the parameters used for binding. So when you see the arguments, it tells you generalized vectors or matrices. This can be as named arguments. Other objects can be coerced as appropriate. So it will accept a vector or a matrix. But what I'll define here is just numbers and not a vector. So probably if I declare it as a vector, my task will be completed. I'll check it out, and literally the 3, 5, 7 has been cbind to my original matrix. Similarly, if you want to bind some values in the rows, you can do that by the function rbind, that is row bind matr, and by a vector say 2, 5 and 9. Press Ctrl Enter and you will be able to see the updated dimensions of matrix with 4 rows and 3 columns. Now if you want to define the dimensions, that is if you want to give row names and column names of matrix, you can also do that. So you do it by dim names. The function is dim names of matrix MATR equals to. Now when you use this function, you need to pass it in the form of a list. So you say list. Whenever it has to be divided into 2 parts. First the rows and second the columns. So in the first part, I'll say I have 4 rows. I'll say R1, R2, R3 and R4. So that the 4 rows will be named R1, R2, R3 and R4 respectively. And if I want to name the columns, similarly I have to pass a vector C1 and C3. Press Ctrl Enter and check it out, format again. So you will see the row names. Here it was 1, 2, 3, 4, which is replaced by R1, R2, R3 and R4, and similarly for the columns. You always deal with matrix when in case if you want to transpose the matrix also. So you will do that by a simple function T and you give MATR and press Ctrl Enter. So the rows are converted into columns and columns have been converted to the rows. So these are the some of the functions you deal with matrix in R. These are the very basic functions and you need to know when you do programming.
So this was all about handling matrices in R, and the next topic will be how to handle factors in R.